Hey everybody, happy Halloween. Welcome to day 31 of the 31 days of Halloween. And this time I want to change things up a little bit. I want to share some of my personal experiences with you. My first experience was a air freshener on top of my fridge. It lifted up and floated towards me and then dropped straight down right in front of me. And that was like, whoa! Of course, I immediately took a photo. Here it is. And the distance from the air freshener to the fridge is 8 feet. Now, after I took the photo, because I always photograph the evidence first and then I touch it, one of the things I did is I put it back on top of the fridge and I knocked it over to see if I could replicate, see, if I could get the same thing to happen again. And it didn't. It fell straight down. And because it had a lot of liquid in it, I ended up trying to roll it and it wouldn't roll. So that was really neat.
This chapter is called Honey, I'm Home. Dear Gurksa, I'm at the point where I need to call the professionals about my home. I live in West Lynn neighborhood in Portland. My husband and I bought an old home built in 1900, 5 years ago. The house was the former home of Andy Baird's, of the Andy Baird's Bakery. We have never experienced things in our home until about a year ago. They include recurring noises like heavy items dropping, knocking sounds, marble sound dropping and rolling, footsteps in the bedroom and upstairs, often while we're in the room, drawers opening by themselves, being touched while in the bed, 2 scratches, my name being called, dark shadow that blocked the light, heavy footsteps up the stairs. The experiences gradually building up to one I had tonight, the last one listed, are now enough to make me afraid. I'm also sure that we need to deal with this. Is this something you can investigate? I want to know if these experiences are truly explainable, and thus putting my mind at rest, or if they're indeed paranormal, and help me to oust it. Please help. Thank you, Rhonda.
I had a friend one time that stayed the night over, and I was working, so I decided to bring them breakfast in bed. And when I showed up at 7:30 in the morning, she immediately reached over and tried to find her glasses. And it wasn't on the nightstand where she put it the night before. So she asked me to help. Will you help me find it? So I'm looking on the ground. I don't see it. So we checked the bed. It's nowhere in the bed. I check underneath the bed. It's not underneath the bed either. We tore that bedroom apart looking for it. The glasses that she had the night before ended up in the living room behind the sofa. Can you believe that? That was crazy. The name of this chapter is I Know You're in Here. Hello there. I'm emailing you because I think I need some advice before I decide to do an investigation. My husband and I have been noticing some things happening lately. The bigger things have been mainly with him, and it's just really started for the most part. I always heard footsteps in our house, and would just chalk it up to being the neighbors that I was hearing. I decided to dismiss that excuse because our house is very old and we aren't very close to the neighbors. And when I say we aren't very close, I mean that by saying we live in the neighborhood, but it's older, so the houses are no more than legal 10 feet from each other. Anyways, the footsteps I've always been able to excuse. More recently, my husband is experiencing doors hitting walls in the middle of the night, or the garbage can lid moving for no apparent reason. And most recently, yesterday morning, the TV remote flying off the shelf. Now, my husband didn't see anything fly. He was actually sleeping when he heard the remote fall and assumed that I had left it in a weird spot on the shelf. What he didn't see for himself is that the remote had actually been about 4 feet from the shelf and should have been able to go that far simply by just losing balance. Lastly, my stepdaughter is 10. When she mentioned to my husband numerous times now that she's awoken during the night with the sensation that someone was in her room. She woke up, looked around, and not see anyone. Thankfully, this didn't scare her, and she's always been able to go right back to sleep. I'm not quite convinced something paranormal is happening in our house. Certainly nobody feels threatened, but I guess I would just like some advice, or maybe what to do next. I was thinking about possibly setting up a recorder and see if we can get some hard evidence. Is that something you advise? Thanks for your help, Jessica. Now, many years later, I had another friend who was really into crocheting, and she came over and she brought her 2 crochet needles and her yarn, and we put it right there on the side of the couch. And we went to the bedroom for a few minutes, and then afterwards when we came back, one of the crochet needles was gone. So I'm like, okay, well, it's on the couch, you know, it must have fallen. And so we looked, and it wasn't between the couch, it wasn't on the cushion, it didn't fall on the back of the couch because it was on the armrest. So I ended up moving the couch. It's nowhere. I searched the whole living room. It was nowhere. So, flash forward 2 weeks later, get a knock on my door, and you know, I just cleaned the house, everything's vacuumed, and so she's at the door. I greet her with a hug, and she looks over my shoulder, and she sees the crochet needle in the middle of the living room. And she's like, "Is that the crochet needle?" I'm like, "That was not there a few minutes ago. That crochet needle was not there because on the carpet I just vacuumed. You could see the little marks that, you know, when you vacuum a carpet, it makes the little marks, you know, the little pattern. So you could see the pattern. I had vacuumed that just moments before, and then there it is. So that was a pretty cool experience."